Good morning
Go
to
on.
you.
What's your view? Go for it.
Well, so I watched all the debates that you had. I saw the original interview. I'd seen your interview with Sargon as
Hmm.
well. Um, and I passed you once as well at one of his events. But one of the things that I think is really interesting is you guys talked a lot about kind of, you talked about how black people are reactionary. And
Yep.
I found this to be an interesting kind of sweeping statement that I'm not sure that all people, by virtue of being black, should probably accept necessarily, because I
Hmm.
think it's important to divorce qualities and traits from people by virtue of their skin color in a very MLK kind of fashion. But I mean, apart from that, I suppose I understand what you're saying about Black Pound Day being a measure for the black community,
Hmm.
whereas other communities have their measures. And obviously, we can talk about the Jewish community, and the sort of cultural uniformity that they enjoy. And
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
agree with you that there should be some important there should be some banding together,
Right.
as a community that occurs amongst Black society. And I grew up in East London, so I had African and Caribbean friends warring over where they were from. There
Uh huh.
isn't as much uniformity as people would want to believe. And so I agree that it's a good thing to have more of that. I
Hmm.
suppose the reason why I bring up Kant's law in would you wish to will this universally affect for your fellow man, irrespective of race, is because I think we could land in a dangerous situation where someone unlike Tommy, someone worse than Tommy, can
Hmm.
then come along and say, hey, so they're focusing on Black Pound Day over there.
Hmm.
Our little girls are being raped and so on. Obviously, it's nothing to do with you lot, like you said in the debate, rightfully
Hmm.
so,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? But if they said to themselves, if there was then a more focused white movement that was ethnically centered, and they were saying, let's support ourselves because everyone's supporting themselves, would we not then move gradually towards a more ethnically divided society?
Um. Okay. I'll say this. Only if you have a skewed version of reality. So I would say that living in the Western world, would you agree that the Western world generally is run by rich white men?
Well, yeah, I would say so.
Right. Okay. So it's already being done. If that makes sense. So if you say, oh, we're gonna do something even more white, it's like, well, the society is being run by rich white men already. Do you know what I mean? Like what you're saying is that you're trying to do something more so than what you already have. So it's like, yeah, because the view of reality is it's run by rich white men. I didn't make it this way, like I was born in society this way, and it is what it is. So I get what you're saying, but I say if you have a skewed version of reality and not realize that generally this society is run by rich white men, then you really generally don't have to do that.
I hear what
Generally.
you're saying. I would say that there's also a perception, a possibility on your end of things as well, because to look at the most successful people in societies that are predominantly white. Now, in the case of America, obviously it's because it's stolen land, but in the
Hmm.
case
Hmm.
of Britain, it's because it is, a historically white country. It's because of the people that are there. So a lot of people talk about systemic racism and, oh, if we remove the whole racist system, then we'll see equal outcomes across the board. I would probably think the reason why there's so many successful rich white men is not because it's not just because of racial uniformity or this primacy of the white identity necessarily. I'm not denying that existed in the past, but I would say that people are there in those positions now in
Yeah.
the sense that they haven't been hindered. Like they could
Yeah,
progress
but
in
is
the
but
in
but
the
then
hierarchy, and their race wasn't a problem holding them back. So I
yeah,
see
but
what
then
you're
but then
saying.
wouldn't you say for me, history um, shows you the present, and the present will show you the future in what I do. So, if historically the society was run by rich white men, based off of the slave trade or colonization, etc., etc., people act like a lot. This is what kind of makes me really side eye people. They act as if that legacy would not be handed down. Like
Mm,
every legacy is handed down. It doesn't matter who you are. So the legacy of rich white men owning all the land or all the businesses, etc., would be handed down to other rich white men. The rich white men that are in power generally aren't going to be like, okay, let's hand it down to the Chinese then.
mm,
It just doesn't happen. Do you know what I mean? Generally. So the legacy that you see today of rich white men owning everything started from the legacy of colonization and slavery. So I hear what you're saying about, oh, okay, um, the way it is not because they're not held back, but it's basically a legacy. Do you know what I mean? Like
mm,
something really drastic. And I'm saying, and I'm being 100% with this. I do not wish to topple the legacy of rich white men owning stuff in white lands. That is actually not what I'm trying to do. What I want to do is to get rich black people owning black stuff in black lands. That is what I
sure.
want to do. I want black people to own their own stuff in black lands. You are allowed to own your stuff in white lands. I have the Chinese allowed to own their stuff, Japanese allowed to own their stuff. But when it comes to black people owning their stuff and people trying to stop that, then I have a problem.
I feel you. I take a bit of issue with this white versus black land though, and like as a Brit, like as someone who's Commonwealth Brit, similar to yourself, I'm sure. Like we sort of came to Britain, or like historically were made a part of Britain and national citizens on a civic basis rather than an ethnic basis. And so, like some countries are unique in this in the modern day, you know, such as the United States, such as Britain. I mean, obviously, the United States has its own ghastly history, which we needn't go into, right? But what I would say is that the notion of being a British citizen, a citizen of the country of Britain, that is something that
Hmm.
I think the racial lines on that have been attempted to be blurred. And so I see this little
Right.
resurgence of this attitude of like, white people have their land and their businesses, and black people should have their land and their businesses. And I wonder, is there a place for a mixed land? And aren't we already working on that enterprise? And what about
Yeah,
that?
but a mixed land though, a mixed land, yeah, because we live in a mixed land. If we're honest, we're in a quote unquote melting pot, right?
London,
And
yeah.
what we still find is the rich white men still own it. So while I see the thing is with me, I try to be very practical and I try to be very objective. I'm not about wishful thinking. I'm about what is actually happening. So we live in a melting pot right now. However, this melting pot is still owned by rich white men, which is cool because, like I said, we're in Great Britain. Okay, we're in the Western world. I
Right.
don't seek to topple that and make that, like any different. But the reason why also is because black people have a different lived experience as well. So do Asians, so do Jewish people, so do like every group of people have a different lived experience while on this piece of land. And I
Sure.
think what happens is that people negate people's lived experiences and they think we all occupy the same bit of land but we have different lived experiences. So when
Sure.
we come together to speak, okay,
Mm.
sometimes we miss each other because we think, oh, but we're all occupying the same group of land. Like we all have the same experiences. We all have the same, and it's like, no, you have not lived the black experience on this land. You
Sure.
haven't. Just like I haven't lived the white experience on this land. Do you know what I mean? I haven't lived the Asian experience on this land. We have different lived experiences, and I think we need to understand that. And I think that's where a lot of the time we get where a lot of the arguments start. If I'm totally honest, we have to understand that people have different lived experiences on this one piece of land.
I completely agree with you. I do think, though, that this idea of lived experience, it can go to class as well. It's a little more specific than
Yeah,
merely just
yeah,
race. And I think
yeah.
that this is a bit of an import from America, because I've lived here the last 6 years, but I'm from East London. So I'm from Leighton originally. My family are basically
There's a lot of Asian Muslims in East London.
very much so. There's a mosque at the end of
Right,
my street. I got attacked
right,
by
right.
Islamists at college for questioning the morality of
Islam.
Muhammad.
Right.
So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I'm a secular atheist personally, but what I'm trying to say, I suppose, is I grew up extremely working class, and my family were Greek Cypriots, and my grandfather was an Armenian. So my grandfather escaped genocide. My father escaped an invasion of Cyprus. We're literally refugees to England, and I suppose we benefited from that kindness, and also we shared. So like on my street growing up, I had my next door neighbor was Nigerian on my left side, Jamaican on my right side, English opposite me, Indian. So we had a true melting pot, and there was an understanding that we all spoke the same accent. We all spoke MLE. We all, dropped that. We basically we speak multicultural London English, and that
Right.
was this
I get you.
cultural band we could kind of like come underneath. you know, and there was
Yeah.
also this uniting against the upper classes. There was a sense of where the working class, this is working
Right.
class culture, like much like grime was, you know. So I suppose I see these links kind of being severed, and I see the American rhetoric really taking hold everywhere. We're kind of forgetting who our neighbors are, and that there are more shared experiences in terms of being low class, and that isn't such a conflation as it is in the States. Because to be here in the States, it sickens me personally. Because from all the black people I knew growing up in England, um, I never saw the same situation that people experience here in terms of the generational gap of wealth and the
Right.
segregation and the way the land
Right.
is set up. So there are many issues, but I suppose I take question at the rhetoric being so easily imported over, and how we can
Right.
be negating some of these
I hear that.
class-based experiences.
The thing is, I hear that. I hear that, and I do see some of this stuff happening myself. I do see some things are very unique to America, you know, and I do understand that, you know, some of the things are very unique to not even just the UK, but sometimes just London. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes London can be quite a unique experience. However, like I said, it doesn't negate, yeah, the power structure. Do you know what I mean? And so when people start speaking about the power structure, we look at the power structure is, as you say, rich white men. Like I said, which I'm not trying to topple, by the way. You know, I'm actually like, whatever it is whatever it is. My thing is, hang on one second. You right, son? All right. Um, yeah, what it actually is. My thing is that in this world, when I look at the social economic ladder globally, I'm a person who likes to win, just personally as me as an individual, and I don't see black people winning. I don't see quote unquote my kind winning. And so I want us to win, and I want us to win big. I don't want us to win by cheating. I don't want us to win by killing. I don't want us to win by maiming. I don't want us to win by enslaving. But I want us to be able to understand the game of life and win. And so that's literally my politics. Like, it's not here to hurt or maim or, you know, kill anyone. It's really here to try and make black people say, you know what, we find ourselves here, right? Let's start moving up a little bit, you know, by doing the things according to the rules of the game that we can do. Do you know what I mean? To do. And literally, that's my thing. And some
I
people don't
respect
like
that.
it. Some
No,
people don't like it,
I
you know?
completely respect it. I think that what is also foregone, though, sometimes is the opportunities for white people and black people to make friendships. And I
Well, I
think
don't have
that
a
a
problem
lot.
with, the thing is, I don't have a problem with white people. And a lot of people think that I do. So, like, it's like, listen, I don't have a problem with white people. If someone shows himself to be a racist, I'll definitely have a problem with you, right? But if you're cool, I'm cool. Like, that's generally, you know, how I am. Like, I don't have a problem with white people. And I don't think I've shown in my history to be like, oh yeah, I hate white people, and that's not what I've shown at all.
Sure.
But a lot of people think that me speaking like this means I hate someone, and I'm like, I don't hate anybody.
I
Do you
feel
know what I
you.
mean?
I
Like,
feel
it's
you.
like people don't get it.
I don't think you hate anyone personally. That's not where I come from with it. My question, I suppose, is like if you have, like, for instance, for example, a Jamaican jerk chicken shop, yeah,
Yep,
and there's a white guy who comes in and he
yep.
says, "I would buy from here, but you're not of my kind."
Okay, right, yeah.
So this is, I'm trying to get Socratic with you and just say, like, all right, if there's someone who isn't like you, who
That's
isn't a
his
part of your
choice.
ethnic group,
That
do
is
you
his
want to do
choice,
you want to
really.
enjoy that moment, Sarah?
No, no, that's his choice. Do you know what? Listen, you see, I don't want to. I tell you what, I don't want to do.
Do you think that's a
Don't want to.
respectable choice then, rather than
Of course,
shopping
listen.
based on merit, right?
It's a respectable choice based on his own individual subjective reasoning. And the thing is, I cannot control people's own individual subjective reasoning, and I don't seek to. Do you know what I mean? If you choose not to spend in a Jamaican jerk shop because it's not of your own kind, cool. Like, okay, do you know what I mean? Like, fine. I would spend there, but you know, another Chinese man might walk in there and spend there. It swings and roundabouts. Do you know what I mean? Like, if
Yeah,
you choose not to do it, I am not here to tell you you must spend in a black Jamaican. Like, I'm not here to do that. If you choose not to do it, then fine.
I feel you, man. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, it sounds a bit different to how I grew up, because I would go anywhere where the good food was at, and no matter who what
Right.
people look like, I would support them. So yeah, I mean, I completely get your rationalization, and I understand what your intentions are, and that you want black people to succeed and your own kind to succeed. I get
To
that.
succeed, yeah, of course, because we currently find ourselves at the bottom. Who wants to be last? No one
Mm,
wants to finish the race last, mate. Like, no one wants to finish the race last. Yeah.
I
And
feel
so
you.
So I don't want to finish the race last, and that's just me as an individual. Like I said, it doesn't mean I'm trying to cheat the game.
Mm.
It doesn't mean that
Well,
that's what I'm trying to do.
aren't there other things in the black community that need a bit of healing then as well?